No, no, Fritz, that would not be a good name for a new coffee. No, and we're not even going to say it because now we're live and we're not even going to say what that coffee might be.
We
But
are.
people, no, we're not saying it. Oh, you mean we are live? Yes.
Yes. Hi,
But
everybody.
my coffee needs more coffee, though. That's what my shirt says.
That's
Hey,
all
everybody,
good,
especially those in YouTube land.
yeah, this is our debut on YouTube.
This is our debut. Look at us on the day after Cinco de Mayo. Not sink in the mayo, Cinco de Mayo. I'm Coach Kim. This is Coach Fritz. I always point the wrong direction. I don't know why.
It's hard because it's like reverse.
It's opposite. Yeah. You got it. Stop. No, we don't have any fun doing this. None.
No.
So for you on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. This is Own Your Life 20. I'm Coach K, this is Coach Fritz, and we come to you every day and talk about the things that people are talking to us about, the questions that people have, and some of the words lately have been stuck. I feel stuck. Whatever that is. I think we've all been there. I've been there many times that for some reason I feel stuck. And Fritz brought up something really interesting today. He actually said to me that, are we on autopilot or not? And so I'm posing the question to him, and I know he's going to expand on this one, but are we on autopilot, Fritz?
Yeah, actually we are. All of us are. And, the whole autopilot thing is really, what autopilot system are you on? So we talked about yesterday, we talked about a lot yesterday. We got pretty deep. But one of the things that I mentioned was the brain, and the brain not knowing the difference between imagination and real things that happen, right? The brain doesn't know the difference. And that's why visualization exercises work to help create things. Well, the reason visualization exercises work is because you're actually retraining a portion of your brain, which is called the filter system, right? So when you're retraining that, what you're retraining is what is on autopilot. So autopilot are the daily thought habits that we've pretty much created since we were infants. So you could almost say that it's like our core belief system, because isn't our beliefs really nothing more than thoughts? When you really think about it, I mean, if you really want to get philosophical and really deep, I mean, really, what is it? To me, I don't know. But the point.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I know that, people talk a lot about, I think we say things maybe, and you can talk about this one a little bit more on autopilot piece, but I think a lot of us say things we don't even know why we're saying them. We're kind of born with them, right? Where, beliefs sometimes are put on us mostly not by choice. They're put on us mostly as children whatever our parents give us, whatever our grandparents give us, our aunts and uncles, whatever that might be, that's where a lot of our belief system comes in. Right. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that where the autopilot piece comes into play?
Yes, absolutely. And that is where the autopilot piece comes in. And that's why I brought that up, because that autopilot piece is trained. So if you grew up in an environment, or you had a lot of experiences of falling short, right? Whether it be sports or anything, let's use an example of, let's say you bomb a speech. You immediately start thinking, I'm worthless, I'm no good, it'll never work for me, I can't ever do that again, because that's your autopilot based on your experience of always falling short. So your brain automatically goes into the whole think mode of, you're not going to be good enough, you're not worthy, all of that, right? So all of us have autopilot. And when we start creating those thoughts, then those thoughts help create our decisions, which also we have decisions that are on autopilot. We don't think about them, right? They just kind of go right by. They're just normal, everyday decisions we make, and we make a ton of them that we don't even realize. If you really slow your day down and really get really, really self-aware and think about every interaction and every thought and every decision you make, you'd be amazed at how many decisions are just automatic. They're just on autopilot. So when Kim and I were talking earlier this afternoon, I said, why don't you just think about if you make all these small decisions, right, about I'm just going to do it tomorrow, that's really not that important. You're making small decisions like that, and it's just thoughts, right? Because it's just normal. And then at the end of 365 days, you're like, why the hell am I in this mess? Why is my life so damn disorganized right now? Well, it's disorganized because of all the decisions you've been making because you've been on autopilot. Here's the cool piece. You can change that autopilot to benefit you and help you and be more of an asset. So that's the cool piece to all this. So when you hear people say like, you become what you think, you are what you speak. That's true. Like, if you constantly think you're bad, you're going to be bad. You're going to live this really negative life. So, and I know I'm not speaking anything most people probably have not already heard, right? I'm just hoping it resonates with somebody because I might be delivering it a little different, or I might be saying it a little different. And, there's a whole much deeper level to all of this that puts science behind it. And there's a way of reactivating this whole system and training this whole system and changing it. And there's a ton of stuff to be had with this. But I just, I really just wanted to bring that up today. Kim said, well, why don't we talk about autopilot? And I'm like, yeah, that's perfect because it kind of ties into where we were yesterday. And that is so true, because if you never thought about this before, never said, I really never thought of it like that, there's a certain awareness that's always going to be there now. So when you go through your day, even just that simple thing, tomorrow or later today, you're going to be going through and you're going to be stopping and thinking all of a sudden. You're going to have a different level of awareness, right? And with awareness comes learning. So it's just really fascinating to me, everything that can be driven into that. So that's autopilot for me. And like I said, we can go way deeper. There's a whole lot more. And in our program, we definitely do. But, that's kind of where I wanted to take it right now.
Yeah, and I think what started that whole conversation really was how many people we've spoken to recently who feel stuck. So, if you're that person, if you're watching this, if you just happen to come across this, of course, I never think that anything is by accident. I know that that's how I came into, different readings, different people that have helped me to kind of break the habit of just being on this, well, it is what it is life. And that is so far from the truth. When you realize that you have an ability to be present. Let me ask you this. Do you find yourself on autopilot, like completely unaware of life experiences like that happen every single day? So somebody might ask you, well, what did you do this weekend? I don't know. We went and did this and did that. And you really sit back and think about it, like, wow, I really can't so much remember what we did, but I know we were busy, right? You get that a lot. So, we're not even conscious of the experience of life as it's happening. And that's how sometimes we miss a lot of opportunities. We miss a lot of conversations. Or, the worst case scenario, which would be, what if you didn't pick up the phone and call somebody because you're on autopilot, not really being present at the time, or you go, oh gosh, where did the day go, when you could have called somebody, who needed to hear from you. Our brain takes these like temporary vacations, and it's really there as a protection mechanism. Our brain really likes to be in harmony with everything else that's around us. And sometimes when we are so present, that we finally realize that we're not stuck is when we start to feel pressure in different areas. And so sometimes that pressure becomes so much that we tend to kind of go back to what's comfortable, which is being on autopilot, which is just kind of going through your day. It's, you really are kind of like a zombie when you kind of lose consciousness, when you feel stuck that way. So I kind of wanted to give you guys some tools to walk away with that I think would be easy to implement. It might sound easy in some cases, but I think if you are present and you do it in bite-sized pieces, not try to eat it all at one time, these could be a couple really cool tips that you could use for yourself. So one of them is meditation. It sounds so simple, right? But it really is just shutting off the noise. And it really is the most common way of preventing that autopilot is when you meditate, you draw your focus into a present moment. A lot of yoga instructors, I do teach a strength yoga. And I'm always telling my class to remember your breath. Think about your breath. Be conscious of your breath. And, it's not always just for them. It's also for me too. But that reminder and the reason that you breathe that way in meditation is to get your body in a rhythm, is to get your focus and get centered. That's just one of them. I would say the hardest one is probably not thinking about your past. You cannot think about what you didn't do, you didn't talk to, the opportunities you didn't take, the job you got fired from. We only have this moment right here to be completely aware of where we are and to wake up the brain and think about where we want to go in the future. We need to also make sure and build that into a daily routine, because I know Fritz can talk about this one, is your thought process. How do you start your morning? What do you think about when you wake up? How does that feel to you? And what do you recognize? So when we start visualizing and thinking of what our future could be, then you activate a whole other side of your brain that Fritz likes to talk about, the RAS, which I know that he barely touched on for a second. But I think, Fritz, if you could just give just a teensy bit more of what that means, so that maybe we could wake somebody up today and keep them off autopilot.
Well, it's funny that you say wake them up, because the RAS actually has to do with your sleep and your awake mode. It's the reticular, so it's the filter to your brain. So it's all the experiences. That's the filter that tells, and then that goes off into your cerebrum, and it just goes and sends messages, and that's what creates this thought, and that's what creates autopilot, actually. And so you can reactivate that in a different sense and change that. So when Kim was saying, your morning routines scientifically have been proven time and time again to be so important. But with the IRS, and you want to throw that in there, when you wake up in the morning, you pick up where you left off. So you're going to pick up your day in your morning right where you left off that night. So I often talk about nightly routines too, and making sure you have a decompression mode or a decompression routine at night where you're quieting your mind. So even a short meditation or something, or if you had a really rough day, making sure that you're consciously changing certain thoughts and changing all that, so that when you wake up in the morning, you wake up picking up where you left off the night before, which is in a better place than once you went to bed, right? So even with that, and when you're putting new information into the filter, then you know, that's where you can change that autopilot that we talked about. And honestly, it comes down to actually being so self-aware that you're making decisions and you're making choices, because, you know, like I said, the brain doesn't know the difference between imaginary and
Mhm.
real. It doesn't know the difference, which is fascinating within itself, because you would think the brain, you're sitting in reality and the brain's going to be like, this is reality, right? Well, you can close your eyes, go into a meditative state, do some visualization exercises over and over and over. And actually, what's that doing is now you're training your RAS, that filter, and you're training your brain to actually see opportunities.
Mhm.
So that actually comes into the whole law of attraction thing, because the law, when Kim and I just talked about this, the law of attraction is not a mystical thing. It's an actual thing. I don't know if I'm going to call it the law of attraction, but I think it's more you're training your brain to see opportunities so that your autopilot takes those opportunities, instead of being in an autopilot mode where you'll never see opportunities because you're too engulfed in the negativity or the usual.
100%. Absolutely true. If you're feeling like, like you're in pain or you've got shame or guilt over the life that you're living, that you feel like, when I said it is what it is. To me, that means you're just plowing through the day without really a thought. There's no passion. There's no liveliness. There's no spontaneity. All of the things that make us fun, that make us attractive, that when you start to lose that, and sometimes you can feel that when you're running out of patience with other people, that you don't like your job anymore. We can be in a job that it's not our purpose, but we can still be happy and at peace in that position. But I think what's really important, and now that we've talked about the reticular activating system, which I did post in our notes there so that you could actually read what that is.
I see
But
that. That's a very good definition.
yeah, so now that we've brought that to your attention, let me just speak for 1 second about daydreaming, because I often ask people, what is your purpose? And we've talked for a whole week about purpose in earlier live videos. But let me put it even simpler than that. Do you daydream? When you're sitting around and you're thinking, God, I wish I could be anywhere else but here. We are not designed to just make a lot of money and go sit on the beach somewhere. Like, that's fun for a while, and maybe I buy a house on a beach, but I'm never going to stop working. But working to me is doing what I'm doing now. It's not only learning something new, learning more about myself, because we're an endless pit of things to learn. But it's giving back, giving to you. I know for Fritz and I, when we see somebody shift, when we see the light come back, we know that we've done something really well, and that is what keeps us coming back. That's the questions that people ask, the people that we run into. But I want you to take this with you, that if you are daydreaming and your daydreams are more exciting than your life, a change is needed. So if you just sit in that for a minute, meditate on that for a minute, start to think about your past, just a little. Let's not go down the bad. Let's only stick to some positive things. Don't allow your brain to go there. Your life now, and examine what your purpose might be on this planet while you're here. Because we are all little tiny grains of sand, and we all have about 1 second to live. We cannot waste it feeling stuck or that we don't have a purpose. So meditation is a really good one. Get out and go hiking, take an adventure, do something completely out of the norm for yourself. Get active, solve problems. The little ones, what's my next step? Don't overthink it. Stop thinking that I have to do something amazing and big and I have to have this gigantic why. to get unstuck from where I'm at now. It starts with little tiny things. And I tell you what, it's always that one little tiny thing that you go, that's it. It doesn't have to be this gigantic thing, this amazing Instagram, this amazing post you got to put on Facebook. When somebody's like, what's your purpose? It's okay for you to have to sit in that for a little while, to think about it. And, you'll feel it bubble up because it'll become emotional, and in a good way. It's going to wash over you, and you're going to go, that's it. That's what I want to do. And once that is opened, that RAS kicks in, and you'd be surprised at how many people you come across that you would have never come across before. Or you're in a room with people that are all speaking something to you that's feeding you in that moment that you're hoping to hear from, but only you knew that. You weren't really searching it out vocally, but you wanted it, your brain wanted it, and now you're awake to it, and you'll just be amazed at the things that you bring in. And that's where it gets really exciting. And those are the things that we would love for you to share as you're going through this, and now that you're a little bit more awake about what that process is. Let us know.
It's kind of a good example is, so let's say there's a car you want to buy. Let's say you're in love with Corvettes, right? But let's face it, Corvettes are kind of expensive, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 car, right? Although they would be fun, not gonna lie.
Super fun.
Super fun. But budget says we have to drive a Prius. Boom. So we do all this research on this Prius, we pick out the color, so on and so forth, right? We put time and effort into this. And now we're out there driving around. We haven't purchased it yet, but we're out there driving around, going to work, going to the grocery store, doing things. And we're noticing all these Priuses. Well, there's your example. There's your simplicity laid out as to how the RAS system works. That's it. So you're actually trained, because you did all the research, you trained your brain that Prius is it, and now all of a sudden you're going to see all these Priuses, and you'll probably see the silver ones that you were looking at because you chose the silver color. It's no different than when you actually buy something, right? How many times have we bought something, a suit, a hat, whatever, shoes, and now all of a sudden we notice them on everybody? Like, it's not hard in a room to notice that person has those. Or you're in a crowded room and you've just been sitting and learning something, and you're in a conversation and you're paying attention to the conversation, but the conversation next to you happens to mention the one thing you were just learning, and all of a sudden you just tune in on that because you've trained, right, your brain in that filter to focus on that. That's why I said you can actually train your brain to see opportunities, and it doesn't have to be just for money, but you can train it. And that's the exciting, to me, that just jacks me up, because it's like, I don't know, it's endless possibilities. I mean, we've all, if you haven't seen the movie Limitless, I mean, that's a really good movie, kind of what we're talking about, really just tapping into how powerful we as human beings are. So when we do coaching, one of the things that we often say to all of our clients is all of the answers are already within people.
Yeah.
They're already there. You're walking around with all the answers. We help you pull them out. And that's what we do. And there's tricks, and there's techniques, and there's skills, and there's tools, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just simply here, grab a shovel and start digging. But that you already have them within you, and that's the cool piece. It's all cool.
It is. So to get off the serious topic, I don't know about you, Fritz, but I love when I get into a room with people, or you do overhear a conversation, and those people allow you to come in and be a part of that conversation, and then because you're hearing what they're saying, and you're like, ooh, oh, I could totally like teach them a technique, or I could say something to them that'll put them into like this aha moment. You know, I know that you and I pick up on those things, obviously, because that's where our brain goes, is how can we help other people move forward? That's all we're doing, because the people that we're meeting with are highly educated, very skilled, you know, professionals, athletes, and veterans that have a certain set of skills that, you know, have all the money, have all the success, and just don't have a social life, or are, you know, the other side of them, their family, their children, their coworkers, even. What's that?
Stuck.
Yeah, they're struggling. There's this inner battle that goes on, and it feels like you're out of rhythm, and you know, acknowledge that, and then, you know, allow people like Fritz and I to help you move through that, because we all go through it. Even as coaches, we seek out coaching to keep us in line, because all that gunk that's still there, the old tapes, the, you know, subconscious mind likes to play tricks on you, that, you know, there's still this past. Yeah, there's a past. Well, we had to fail to learn. I mean, didn't you say that to me earlier, Fritz?
Yeah, there's two ways of learning, either knowing or failing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So chew on that. That's some good fat. So we're getting a little bit of feedback here. That's good. We like that. So we're gonna call it. It's been just under 30 minutes, and we don't know when we're gonna be. I mean, it could be 15 minutes, it could be 57 minutes, or 47 minutes. I don't know. Maybe we talked about doing a marathon. And I don't know. We might have to do that with all these, you know, COVID-19 restrictions. We might just have to come on here and pull an all-nighter, see how many people we can get unstuck.
I think if we do one of those, then hopefully this whole COVID thing will be unquarantined, and then, you know, we can be in the same room together doing that, and then we got a lot of props that we can put in, and we can have a lot of fun, a lot more fun than we do separately right now.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a lot more fun, and we can have our marketing director involved, and we can get a lot more interactive. Right. And you know, I think, you know, hopefully that'll be it when we do this marathon that we keep talking about.
Right. Well, we've talked about it more than once. I think we're gonna have to do that now.
Yeah, kind of threw it out there, didn't we?
Talking ourselves right into that one. All right. Well, you guys have an awesome afternoon. Enjoy if you've got sun out there, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for tuning in with us. We appreciate and have a lot of gratitude for letting us come in and be a part of your life. So
very honored. Love you all.